Good afternoon. How's everybody doing now? Okay. I started off this morning by talking about the fact that there are 5 billion cell phones on this planet. Sorry, 6 billion in a population of 7 billion. And there's a natural alliance between social and mobile. And the answer is very simple. Because our life happens wherever we are, right? It happens at the school, it happens at the pool, it happens in the beach, it happens at your cousin's wedding. And we don't carry our big laptop computers with us wherever we go. The one thing that's always with us is this little device. And so there's an immediacy that mobile provides. And I want to give you one data point for the growth, and then we can move on to the panel. And it's a number that I'm familiar with. So the platform that, at Google that we have is the Android platform. And people often want to know how many Android phones are activated every day. Every week, 7 million Android phones are activated. That is just one platform. That means the city the size of Hong Kong is turning on an Android platform phone every single week. And the same kind of numbers you will get from Apple and from BlackBerry and Nokia and all of that. So that should give you an idea of the kind of growth that is coming from the mobile area. So I'm going to start off with one of the fastest growing mobile markets in the region and in the world, and that is Indonesia. And we have Savitri here from Indonesia. So can you tell us a little bit about the kind of growth you're seeing on the mobile platform? And she's from PT Telecom, so she's intimately familiar with it, that you're seeing in Indonesia and maybe the region too, and why that is the case, particularly in Indonesia.
Right. Indonesia is, as mentioned by other panels, is quite a unique, in terms of mobile phone, right? In Indonesia, mobile phone is like a status. So you need to have the latest mobile phone, even if you don't know how to use it. Like maybe people carry like a BlackBerry, and then saying that, I need a BlackBerry, but they can't do BlackBerry message. And then I said, have you subscribed to your operator? And they said, do I need to? So they got a very advanced mobile phone, and mobile phones is like a lifestyle. Like even if they have the latest iPhone, the latest Androids, they must have it. But then that's the reason why it's growing faster than in other region. And also Indonesia likes to interact, likes to do social. We are the number 1, 2, 3 countries in the world, one for BlackBerry, second for Facebook, and third for Twitter. Even for Twitter, we have like over 9 million users. And that's larger than Singapore citizen.
So Savitri, is it true that there's a status symbol attached to phones in the sense people carry multiple phones because you can't be seen with a phone that is better than your boss's phone?
Yeah, that's true.
How does it work? So you pull up a different phone in front of the boss?
Of course. So that's why it's different kind of attitude towards mobile phone. And also, not many people aware that right now mobile phones is higher produced compared to toothbrush. So that's why in Indonesia, people carrying like 2 or 3 mobile phones now.
I see. Thank you. So I'm going to switch next to Mark Liversidge, who represents CSL from Hong Kong. He's the CMO there. So Mark, in the green room, you were telling me how these days when you travel, you're willing to lose your passport and your wallet, but not your phone. And so tell me about that emotion.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the mobile device you have, whether it's an Android device, which is a fantastic operating system, an Apple coming soon, or a Nokia, because as mentioned earlier, it's still a very significant player in this market, is the most important thing for a human being. You used a brilliant phrase I'm going to steal. It's the 79th organ of the human being now. It is the life support machine. That is a radical change in human behavior, that everything else is now subservient to a mobile device in terms of critical need for you to live your life, regardless of where you live on the planet, regardless of how you live on the planet, and regardless of your stature on the planet. That's a massively significant fact. And as a marketer, I feel it's something that has not really been caught onto yet by the marketing community as a whole in a global footprint, and even more so, I must say, in my own backyard here in Hong Kong and in China.
I see. In fact, let's do a quick poll of the audience and see. I'm curious, if you misplace your phone and couldn't find it for 30 minutes or more, how many of you will have a nervous event in your life? Just raise your hand. That's about 20-30% of the audience. Yeah.
The rest are
Crazy.
too busy tweeting and
Exactly.
Facebooking. Didn't hear what you said.
Asking questions.
How many people, am I live here? How many people woke up this morning using their mobile phone as an alarm?
I can add one thing from focus groups that we see around the region where people have actually said, I think this was in China, if I lose my mobile phone, that's equivalent to losing a part of my brain.
Yeah.
That's how people compared it on an emotional level. Yeah.
So, Mark, that would be a good way to segue to you. And you were mentioning, since we're on the topic of fear, that retailers fear this device because of the way it's hurting their business. Because what happens in a store when I walk in with this device as a customer?
Yeah, because as you've seen, let's say that the early flow of applications that are used on mobile phones in the retail segment are often price comparison apps. I think that's the first kind of wave of applications that really became popular. And in not all cases does that actually drive traffic into the stores. So because of these apps, retailers are somewhat apprehensive to people using that in store because they're worried that due to prices lower being online, people leave the store and buy it online. That may in fact happen currently, but I think the answer for retailers is to still embrace mobile in the store and really work around getting social networking to leverage there, to work for them in a way that I explained in my presentation, where people try on shoes, have their friends tell them if it's good or bad, and that actually makes a purchase decision.
Yeah. And one of the drug dealers that feeds that behavior is David Liu right here, founder, CEO of Jeepa. So, David, your service scares me, because if I use it for 6 months, you know everything about where I've been, which bars I go to, which shops I shopped in. You know more about my life than people, my own family members. So why should I use your service? It's scary.
I think deep down inside, all of us really want to open up. And, all of us want to open up. And, part of that is, sharing with my friends. But part of that is actually getting a better experience. We've seen services in China do really well, like Dianping or like Baidu, right? That are very focused on getting that information. But we've also started to see things like Weibo take off, like just in the past 3 years, right? And also just what we're doing. It's about giving you content that you want because you've told us that you want it. And so improving the experience, improving the recommendations that I get, and making it about me. And it only is made possible because I made that important choice of opening up and sharing with this app. So
can we take what Mark was talking about, the consumer behavior in the store, and what advice would you have for brands? So marrying what Mark is saying plus your service, how a brand can leverage that fact that people are willing to disclose so much information.
Right, I think a lot of the brands that we work with are really proud of their retail experience.
Yeah.
They're very proud of what their brand stands for, so that they can, just hold hand to heart and say, Starbucks, we deliver this kind of experience. And so turning it around and not being so afraid of mobile apps as a way to do things like price cut or create alternatives. A lot of the brands that we work with are using the retail presence offline to kind of bring out real-time sharing and put it back online. And the way that we've seen it work best is when people keep it simple. They offer a great incentive that's easy to use, and they integrate it with anything from their social media channels like on Sina to their offline store, and just making it an asset rather than a liability.
Okay. Yeah.
And if I can just hop off the back of that, I completely agree. I mean, use mobility, use all of the opportunities mobility presents you as marketers, but try and be a bit more imaginative than price cutting. It is the habitual marketer's behavior in Greater China. It frustrates the hell out of me because you're not actually selling any virtues at all. You're just giving things away, playing to the jet-so sentiment of local culture in this part of the world. What you should actually be doing is using that rich source of data that somebody's willingly given you to then provide them that's actually something value adding for them, not just cost reducing for them and therefore profit reducing for yourselves.
So
I think, and that leads me to my other major bugbear.
yeah, I was going to ask
which we
you.
talked about, yeah.
Yeah, Mark, as CMO of CSL.
As marketers, and I'm sure there's many CMOs in the room, there's probably a few of the great and the good from the creative agency world. The biggest frustration for me is that I still feel that the creative agency world is lagging behind in the realities of this social media movement. I still have meetings with my agencies. I talk to colleagues who are fellow CMOs who
You
have
should
the
repeat
same.
it. Thomas is not paying attention. He's on his mobile device.
That's okay, as long as he's following my website, I'm okay. When you have a meeting to discuss a program, where does it start? You can guarantee the first people in the room is the ECD and the account director who start thinking about what visuals are going to look like on billboards and in print and on cinema ads and on TVC. And then if you've got a good agency, you sort of get to the halfway point of the process and somebody might mention Facebook. If you're the bad agency, it'll be the last 5 minutes before you're about to launch. What I really want agencies to think about now is, the first conversation with your client should have a social media specialist in the room and start from the premise of your audience, regardless of your industry segment, regardless of your product, all of your consumers are closest to this 79th element of the human body, the mobile device. Start from there and build backwards rather than putting that at the end of the decisioning cycle, and invest more heavily at that end of the train. The great products that are in China, and it was talked about earlier today, I do believe China is more progressive in this space than probably anywhere else in the world at the moment. And consumers in China are proving that there's vehicles for mass personalized communication through the mobile device is a far more valuable marketing method than the mass communication channels that we've all lived with up until about 3-4 years ago.
So the biggest message there is fire your agency.
Well, I think maybe give them a chance to change, to evolve. But yeah, I mean, if they don't respond to that, go find one that will.
Okay. So Sri, going back to Indonesia, Indonesia always find it an interesting and quirky market. Things happen differently in that market compared to anywhere else in the world. Are there things you're seeing with the mobile user in Indonesia that we can take as lessons, that brands can take away as lessons to other parts of the world?
Right. Of course, in Indonesia, we call it like what you said as like a paradox in innovation. Whatever that works overseas, normally in Indonesia doesn't work.
Correct.
But if it works outside Indonesia, it may work in Indonesia, like ringback tones and everything. But then in term of mobile, what is we are going to bring to the audience, to the world, is that we are doing like social media, utilizing mobile, using our own platform. But then the uniqueness that we are doing is we use contents, not just like social media. Like normally when people talk about social media, most people are talking about, are we using Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube? But then we first we define the objective. What's the objective of doing the social media? Because there are many ways that we can do social media. Like we can do like BlackBerry optimizing, we can do like SEO, SEM, and other things. But then the uniqueness in social media that we are doing is in social media we combine music and movie into the contents, like not just like giving discounts and everything, but then how we use contents to attract and engage to the clients. So that's the thing that we are doing in our country, leveraging our platform. But then as we have like many customer bases, then other brands can also use our platform to promote their brands. For example, like a Mercedes, if they want to launch their new Mercedes, then they can use our mobile platform using the data backend that we have. For example, people that has a certain revenue and then certain interest in the car, and then we can do and create the campaign for specific for Mercedes. So our platform is not just for us, but also for other brands to use.
Okay. So I'm going to ask a question, and Mark, and you can answer. It came actually from Jason, the founder of Branded. His wife, Sid, was talking to me, and she said she's worried about her kids and what they post, the fact that that kind of information stays there forever, and especially with mobile, it's so tempting to just tell the world what you're doing without realizing it is there forever, and suddenly your life is so exposed, not just to the brands that are trying to sell to you, but to the world at large. Do you ever worry that we might have already crossed the threshold, or we may be taking a big, giant risk with this medium without thinking about the consequences 10 years from now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I think it's a challenge. It goes back to, I think, the point that Sir Martin Sorrell was speaking about this morning
Privacy,
as well,
yeah.
about potentially closed social networks maybe being something of the future.
Yeah.
But it's currently all very, very open. Although, I mean, it's shared between your friends. I think that people are starting to build an awareness that they can post messages to friends or to public. I think that's goes back to education as well, and I think that at least in Hong Kong, as I have kids in that age myself, I know that that's actually part of education, that people are made aware of what could happen if they publish things in the open. But I guess I don't have a full answer for you. It is definitely a challenge, and I can also see that having still have personally pieces of websites from a long time ago that are still kind of flying around in cyberspace. So this could be a challenge for many people. It's one of the things that I don't think have solved completely. There's also the other side of this. There are companies that make a business out of recreating internet sites from the past, so that you can go back into time, and that actually also serves a purpose, because there's many things there that do have a value in terms of going back to. So, not a full answer.
Sri, I was curious, Indonesia in particular, the way the society is organized, sharing information about your personal life is even more sensitive in that society. So are you seeing the traditional life in Indonesia intersecting with what mobile allows you to do today?
Right now people are more, as David says, is more open. They keep saying that I'm here, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So that's the difference between Indonesia and the world. Normally, like in America, people use like Twitter for sharing RSS and information, while in Indonesia they are sharing like, I just bought this, I just visited this. So right now, people are using Twitter as a search for example, if I travel from my home to my office, I can search whether there is a traffic jam, but on Twitter. So I just mention the address, and then it will give information that there is traffic jam in that street. There is like a car accident, or there are other event that is happening. But I think it's not like the location information that is scary, but Google that is scary. Many Indonesian because your trace is everywhere in Google. So that's what I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just one quick comment to add on being private versus not. I think the market that Japan looks at is obviously China, and I had the chance to meet one of the founders of a really good social app in the Bay Area, and he was telling me about how he's been meeting Chinese entrepreneurs, and culturally we see differences too. In that there's a lot of meeting strangers or dating or nearby location-based apps in China that are doing well, whether it's Weixin or Momo. Even on Japan, I think one of the things that makes us really different than Foursquare is that a lot of the friends that you meet on Japan, even though it's still closed, you actually add them, you meet them online through Japan. And so people are really just more open about meeting friends, adding friends. And I think that culturally, we have to think about this too. Just as marketers, we did one campaign with Starbucks, for example, where the idea was to actually meet a stranger or to meet a guy or a girl at Starbucks on Valentine's Day and to pair up your badges to get a free drink. So these are things that you just wouldn't do in the US, but are possible in China. I will say one argument actually that is in support of these so-called closed networks of the future, and basically mobile is it. I mean, if you look at all of these new mobile apps, a lot of them just serve one very simple purpose. For Instagram, it's photo sharing. For Japan and Foursquare, it's checking in and finding places. On top of a very big platform, Facebook or Sina in China or Tencent in China. And so what we have are basically closed networks, these apps that sit as buckets or silos of people on top of these networks. That it's actually privacy or closed networks, it's already happening, and actually it's a great thing for marketers. Earlier, the example of a high-end jewelry startup using Fancy as a way to reach is just a perfect example of how a closed network can sit on top and be effective.
Okay. So
I think
I'll just drop one in and then I'll come back to you, Mark. So you mentioned about a lot of apps that do one single thing well. So the good news I find on the mobile platform, I'm going off a bit of a tangent here, is the fact that any of the store, the Apple Store or the Android Store has got like 1 million apps to pick from. The bad news is I don't know what to pick, like way too much. So I often ask people. So sometime during the panel, I want each of you to tell me your favorite all-time mobile app that you use all the time. Okay, so people can take it away and they can try it if they don't know. Mine is Songify. The fact that you can speak into that app and it makes you a singer and converts into a song, I love Songify. And if you come to me later, I'll play the Bhangra version of a song I wrote and sang. Okay.
Actually, Gopi is a well-known singer who was singing just last week at Burning Man.
Yeah, not well known. At Burning Man, you don't need talent. You just need to show up and sing. So are we on to questions from the audience?
Yes, we have a few questions. If you want to ask your question quickly, yeah.
Mark wanted to finish up a point.
Well, I'll do two things. So first of all, my favorite app is one that CSL, the provider of all of your free Wi-Fi.
Oddly.
It actually is a genuine. I'll give you it as an example because it's a good. It's called Hot Apps. It's very simple. A lot of the application stores have got millions of apps on them, but are they relevant to the Hong Konger? We simply scan across the new apps every week, and the best 20 that are relevant to people in Hong Kong, we say there they are. We don't get any money for it. We don't make any take on those apps being taken up. It's just a simple
Hot
service to
apps
Hong
on your
Kongers.
site?
It's Hot Apps. You're only available to use it if you're a CSL customer on one of our brands, but it's free of charge. The point I was going to make off the back of the open-closed networks debate is that's just first generation. For me, it will get really interesting and exciting when we start to use time and location-based services for closed communities that are formed for fixed periods of time, for fixed occasions. So for example, in a couple of years' time, there might be a social community formed for SMM. And it exists for one day and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And it's because you are sharing an experience here and now in the same place with the same agenda, with the same interests, and you can connect.
Yeah.
You then all disperse. You may then continue having one-on-one relations with people you've met here or one-to-many, but that's where I see the future of social platforms going. The whole idea of Facebook dominating the earth or Google Plus dominating the earth or Weibo dominating the earth, that's just not going to happen, in my view.
I like that. Could happen at like weddings or reunions or like you've gone to the Olympics.
Anything and everything.
Or a convention of Rotary Club or something. So beautiful. Thomas, we have questions.
Just on Twitter, I've been following. That's what I was doing on my mobile phone over there. One of the difficult things I found is how do you tweet or read tweets on stage without seeming rude to the person that you're standing opposite or talking to. But anyways, I've not solved that one. A lot of tweets going on actually about this ongoing competition we apparently have among our panelists. Your shirt, Mark?
Oh, come on. This isn't a touch.
Who gets the votes, Peter or Mark? There were also some questions about children and mobile and data and the issues about should we be comfortable about our children being on social networks and their usage of mobile and the tracking of that. Anybody willing to take that up?
Yeah, I'll pick it up. I don't mind.
Yeah, David.
Look, again, it's about the world evolving. And of course, parents, as each generation of parent comes through who's more familiar with the internet, more familiar, we're really at this tipping point right now where there's still parents who didn't grow up with the internet, didn't grow up with mobile, they're scared by it. Their kids know way more than they do. You know, we hear stories all the time about 3-year-olds figuring out how to do something for their parent who's 35. I think that will just naturally dissolve over the next 5 to 10 years as the parents of the next generation are very familiar with these platforms and have grown up with it themselves. In the interim, look, everybody's struggling with it. For me, though, it ultimately comes down to parental responsibility. I think it's been true for millennia. It continues to be true today.
So the responsibilities of a parent have shifted tremendously now, and it's a responsibility.
They've got to, you know, it's giving your kid a mobile device at the age of 6 or 7. It comes with a backlash that you know you've got to be aware of as a parent.
David, did you want to?
So I'm not a parent, but our investor is a parent. She has 2 kids. And she's very happy that she can use our app to track where her kids are. And, but that said, honestly speaking, the day that my mom joined Facebook was the day that I used it less. And, you know, so I think that it's really going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But at the same time, it's changing so fast. And again, these kind of apps or closed networks or settings in Facebook, are making it possible to keep that balance there. But yeah, but I even though I grew up with the internet, I'm 27, but like I saw just like my older friends' kids, on Facebook, and I just couldn't imagine, that they would start so small. So, yeah.
Okay.
Shock.
Do you have a favorite app? And don't say Gpang. I mean, I'm sure you love it.
It's actually the app made by these guys, CSL. Hot apps.
Hot apps.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Unfortunately, we're running short on time there. Just very quickly before we give the round of applause for our audience, all of the not audience. You get a round of applause also, but these guys get a bigger one. The presentations will all be available on the Social Media Matters website. We'll get that up as soon as possible when we've got them all. If you are running low from tweeting, do not worry. We have charging stations outside. Please charge up your mobile phone so you can tweet away on the hashtag, which is SMMAsia. Hashtag SMMAsia. There's a lot of great conversation going on Twitter, Mark, about your shirt. We have the Financial Times competition, so you don't need a charger. You can charge it by solar power. If you're one of the winners, just drop in your business card out there and answer the question. And you could also win a Financial Times subscription. The Financial Times is our sponsor for lunch. Thank you very much, Financial Times. But don't linger too long over your Financial Times lunch because we have Jem, the artist hired by Apple to launch iTunes in Asia, who will be starting her performance at 13:46 exactly. And before we give the round of applause, I think Gopi gets the award for the Zen statement of the day. Our life happens wherever we are. Think about that. So a round of applause for our panel here. Thank you very much, and see you immediately after the lunch. Thank you.